Hey, hi guys. Welcome to another session with Live of Edit with me. So today we are going to explore everything from Lightroom. So I'm going to show you my process flow as well as I'm going to show you tricks and tips about the new version of Lightroom. How can you make your work faster and even try to avoid Photoshop at many places, and how can you do most of the things in Lightroom. It has come a long way when since I had started using it. So let's get started. I'm going to wait for a few minutes till more people join, and then we'll start the series. What you can see on my screen is the one which we recently had shot in Jan. I think it's already March here. So you can check out the video how we did this shoot. So this was a winter collection and we did like a quite a commercial shoots and some of those ideas as well. So we are going to edit these photos today. Some of them will be fashion and one of them we'll try to take up one beauty as well, and we'll be doing everything in Lightroom, whatever is possible up to the best possible way, and I'll be showing you everything around that. So let's get started. Let us wait for a few time. It's only been 1 minute. I'll wait for a few minutes until more people join. Till that we can explore the photos. I can quickly filter off. I have already posted a few of the photos, but what we'll do is we'll filter off few more photos. Like some of them are already been edited, but we'll take different ones. So I'll show you some of my presets also, and some of the new presets what Lightroom is offering. How can we make our workflow faster as well? So we'll be going through that as well. So this photo is already edited. Let's take a few more. So what I'll do is I'll have the filter, the flags, not the flags, rated 3-star or higher. Okay, and then we can go from there. So this is the one which we had edited. I can always reset and it shows like this because they had a very big background I wanted to take, but I think I mistook at least that length. So what we did is we'll start with this photo and I'll explain you everything around what you can do with Lightroom in the best way possible, and then we'll go to one of the portrait series. So maybe this one we can go. So I can mark this to 5, right? And then we can take this one and I can mark this as 5 and then go to 5, right? So we can start with this photo as well, so that's okay, right? Let's see how many people have joined. Either ways we'll be starting. So okay, I think let's start. So I am using a Wacom tablet as well, but that's okay if you can use a mouse as well. It's mostly Lightroom unless you are using the brush and everything. So let's start with this photo. I'm going to minimize this so we have a bit of less distraction. I'll move this a bit here. Okay, right. Okay, So as you can see from the histogram, so the first thing what you have on Lightroom is the histogram. So there are various sections to this. Generally what we use is the library section where you can see all the photos, and then where you can rate and everything as well. But I do use, then when you want to edit, you can use the develop section. So the develop section has basically the histogram at the top. Then you have all of this options for your basic settings, your calibration, your lens correction, curves and everything. Then you have your crop and straighten tools, crop overlays. Then you have your healing brush to clear off anything like these ones and everything. Then you have your red eye detection if there are something kind of understand that. I don't use this a lot, but it's there, right? 1 second. Hello. आई माझं लाईव्ह सेशन सुरू आहे. माझं लाईव्ह सुरू आहे. Okay, sorry for that. My mom called. That's okay. Okay, cool. Right. So this is finally the overlay masking layer. Okay. So first we'll start with the histogram. Okay. So as you can see, this looks like a very overexposed image, right? It does not look overexposed, but I think with the white background and everything, it does look overexposed for the histogram. Generally I use this, but I can see a lot of details on her skin and everything. So I don't feel this like a, if I go like 200%, I see it's still a good image. It's not a overexposed image, right? Overall background, yes, I can say that. So let's start with the basic panel. So what you have first is the white balance. So white balance, what you can do is you can always choose the white area. So never choose this one. It's the biggest area, it will look very odd and everything. So let's choose, I generally choose the light part, the eye part of it, so nearby, right? But then I start from there. Okay, so this looks very bad. Okay, what it tried to do is it thought ki it's a very cooler image, and then it made it a bit more greener and everything as well. So it's like a auto white balance where the camera the tool decides on its own ki whatever point I use, what white balance would have been, right? So let's not do that. Let's go to 5600, right? So that's very warm. So let's go a bit, right? Let me remove the tinge first, right? So I think this is nice because where the background is looking nice, and we'll fix the skin. So because the skin is not looking a pinkish or the way it should be, but I think the background looks nice. We'll be fixing the ratio as well, but let's do that first. So before touching more into the basic panel, let's fix the ratio because then it will be good. So we'll be posting this image to Instagram or something else. So I generally chose it to be 4:5 or 8:11, 8.5:11. So I generally do like this, and then I try to correct the crop as well. I think this is a bit crooked, but I'll correct this, and then I will just like try to make a rule of third where she is crossing all of these lines as well. So that will be a great thing. Okay. So there are where you can choose the crop, you can choose the aspect ratio, you can choose the angle as well. So you can always say ki what is the scale, like this is the scale, so it will tilt accordingly. Or you can always say auto as well. So the Lightroom decides on its own ki if the image is straightened or crooked. I generally sometimes do it auto as well as sometimes I do it manually myself as well. Okay. So that's about the crop and straighten tool. You can reset as well, so there are reset buttons, and then you can lock that or unlock that. Constraint to the image I have never used, but I don't know the feature as well. Okay, let's go back to basic. Now we have fixed, so there is a shortcut as well to the tool. It's just pressing R on your keyboard, it goes you to the crop tool, and when you press R again, it comes out to the last one what you have used. So now the white balance look white where the wall is looking a bit less white, but we'll fix that. But I feel the crop is looking a bit crooked still. Right now I did a auto one, and I think now it's looking correct. Right. So the exposure is still very high. So let's go with the tone curve. So there are tone curves where you can manage exposure, you can manage contrast, you can manage highlights. Right. Shadows, whites and blacks. Okay, let's go with the exposure. So if I move the exposure, yes, it fixes the exposure. But as I said, right, the white walls and everything, and that all things which makes a big mess out of it. That's why it shows a wrong histogram. But we will keep it like this, right? So it still shows you a correct picture and it is not messing up with the histogram. So let me do like 0.75. Okay, that's why you don't lose details on the model. Okay, or rather you don't take, you can always take it like this and it will become dark, right? So we'll go to minus 0.70 is also good, still not bright enough. Yeah, right. Contrast, let's see the contrast. What contrast you look. So this, the contrast, when you go to negative, it tries to flatten the image, so it's removing all the sharp, all the details and everything. I am not able to explain what's the correct meaning out of it, but that's where it's losing the details and everything. And when I take it toward the positive, it's trying to add more kind of contrast and what I feel is like a dark shadows towards everything. I generally don't tend to do this, but in this it looks like a commercial image where you can use it for Myntra or website, something like that. I will go a bit softer on the contrast. You can control that with the clarity and texture as well, but here we'll go with contrast just to show you what contrast does. Okay. Highlights is basically whatever highlights you have, those will be done. So let me see. Yeah, so all of the bright areas will take away the highlights. Okay, or it adds more highlights. I think add more highlights will look nice, but let's not take it to the top, because then what it feels ki I underexpose the image, and rather I would have fixed the exposure, right? And then I would have removed the highlights. Okay, so we can do the other way around. So remove the highlight completely and lessen the exposure by 0.20%, right? Still it looks nice. Highlight, basically it does the same thing. You can always click the Alt and click on the highlight, and it will show you where you are breaching your limit. So it shows you the patches where the highlights are going above that, right? So this is leaking. So you should reach a point where it is not leaking, right? So this is nice. Same you can do for other tabs also. So where it is not leaking for any colors or look, so that's a good exposure, right? Same thing we'll do for shadows. I think the shadows like this, top one will look nice, right? Shadows, basically the shadow areas is tries to add light to it. So so that's where when you increase the shadows, it tries to add light to it and it takes away from the shadow area, so it's not affecting the highlights. It does, but a picture is a mixture of so many things. So yes, so I'll keep the highlights here. Okay. Sorry, the shadows over here. let me in the meantime also check if we have any questions or anything. Guys, I'll be more than happy to answer questions. Okay, so let's continue. Whites. So whites are basically you're increasing or decreasing the white in the photo. In this case, what we'll do is we can increase it a bit, very lightly, like 0.5 or something, because there's a lot of white already, so I don't want to like, so it's messing the histogram like a lot, so I'll not touch that a lot, as I'll take it away a bit. But still the wall is looking a bit cream, I think. So we will try to fix that. Blacks will take away from the dark or black area or black colors, and it will add to that. I will reduce the black. Generally, if I increase the shadows, then I reduce bit of black, so that brings the depth to the photo back. So if you see here, so on the left it is before and this is after. But I think I took a non-edited image, so it shows a bit of wrong before, right? Okay, so let's go ahead with this. Now coming to the presence and the texture, clarity and dehaze layer. Now I treat them like adding texture to your image. So let me zoom in 200%. Right, so let's zoom into the face, and if I remove texture, it takes away the texture from the complete image. And we can always add a texture to the complete image. I generally don't touch this a lot. I generally try to remove a bit of texture, very lightly, -10. Then clarity, what does is, clarity is basically like a very advanced and highlighted contrast. It takes away the clarity from the photo, or it can add a lot of clarity to the photo. It depends on what kind of photo we have. We can use this creatively as well. I generally add a very little on positive side of clarity, so we get more depth in the photos, or rather more clarity. Dehaze is basically adding a dehaze kind of filter. So I sometimes use it, but it affects the histogram a lot. Like it's adding a white dehaze over everything, or it removes that. Right? So I think adding lessening a bit will makes the wall a bit white. I think now the photo is looking like this. Okay. Now what we can do is at this stage, because this photo we are not able to see a before and after, let me take a different photo. Maybe that makes you understand a bit better. So let's maybe take this photo. So what we will do is, how do you copy settings from one photo to another? You just do Shift Control C, right? I'm doing it on the Mac, so it is Shift Command C, but on the Windows it is Shift Control C. You will see all the options what you are trying to paste. Okay. So I am generally copying everything from healing brush to effect to post cropping. I won't do post cropping, vignetting. I won't do healing. I won't do transform, detail, color grading, and all of this I can. Okay. So I just do a copy, go to the image I want to edit. Let's take this one. I think this one will be where you can, I have not edited this earlier. Okay. Right. And just do a paste. Right, so it's Shift Command V on the Mac and Shift Control V on the. So I've copied all the settings from there to here, so you can see that we had decreased the highlights, increased the shadows and everything. Okay. But I did not copy the crop, so let me fix the crop first and then make it to 8.5 by 11. Let's move it like this, like this, like this, like this, and then do auto. I think that looks nice, right? Okay, so let me add a bit of dehaze. I think this looks nice. Cool. Okay, let's now see vibrance. What it does is only on the bright colors it tries to increase the vibrance, or like the hue of the colors, only for bright ones. Saturation does for all. So if I do this, only bright colors will be brightened, or I can take away the colors. In this picture everything is a bit bright, but saturation does for everything. So like skin color and everything it will take away, or you can make it a black and white as well, right? So I will not suggest this. So I generally do a bit less of saturation, like -5, and then increase the vibration, so I have like very gentle control over it, and then I change my vibration back, saturation back, and then maybe hardly a little I increase, right? So if you see a before and after, we can already see that we have brought so much of color and everything back into the picture, because this was shot in raw, and this is now we are editing. Okay, let's go to the tone curve. One of my favorite tool is the tone curve, right? So there are so many panels. First thing is you can always go where it is controlled. So the first one is where you can increase the highlights, and by choosing this one, so you can always remove the highlights, you can add lights, you can do darks, but I generally don't use this, but I'm just showing you. I'll show you my best method. I just go to the neutral one, then on the left hand side everything is shadows and darkness and everything, and on the right hand side everything is bright. Okay, so if I move this pointer over here, everything will get bright, and if I move this pointer over here, everything will get dark, right? So like that. So what I'll do is, in here I'll add 3 points. I generally add 3 points. So one is for shadows, one is for midtones, and one is for highlights. So I generally try to make like a S curve. So I remove the shadows very subtle, because when you make a very harsh S curve, it adds a lot of contrast. So if I do like a lot of this, it adds a lot of contrast, which makes the photo like very messy. So if I remove this point, so it shows like I am adding a lot of contrast, right? So I'll do it very subtle. Very subtle I'll do it. Okay, and the highlights, I think we have fixed it correctly, because the leaves are going out of picture, so we'll not touch that. Okay, cool. So I think this is looking nice. Okay, we also have red channels, green channels, and the blue channel, so you can always play. When you increase the red, same the concepts, so you'll be increasing the light in the lighter reds. If you move ahead, you'll be adding red, or you can, when you move down, you're adding cyans. So basically it is RGB and CMK, CMY. Okay, so red is opposite cyan, RG, green is opposite yellow, so green is opposite, sorry, CMY, so magenta, sorry, green is opposite magenta. So if you, on the green channel, if you this, you add greens, and if you do add magenta. You can add magenta a bit, right? So this looks nice. And on the blue, blue is against yellow, so if you remove yellow, adding yellow, so you are removing all the blues, and you are adding blues as well, you can do that. I would suggest adding a very subtle blue, like take you towards the white. Okay. So I'll again show you the before and after. So this was a very harsh image which we have brought to this one. Okay, I think this was all about the curves. Let's go to the color layer. I generally don't tend to do a lot of things in the color layer, but I'll sorry, the other way around. I tend to do, but I only touch when it's mostly about the skin color. So I think the tone curve, the pink is messing it a lot. I really don't like this, so I'll just remove this. You can double click and remove as well. So I'll remove that pink haze. Okay, I'll remove this blue as well. I think the blue tinge was looking okay, right? Cool, right? Let's go to here. Let's fix the skin color. The skin colors are basically oranges, reds, and some yellows and greens as well. So I try to do like that. So generally I change the orange a bit, so to add that texture, but here it's doing it more. Increase the saturation, so it's adding that kind of skin color. And then I'll take away the highlights, just bring more of the details back. And here I think there is some redness over there, so I'll change the red as well a bit. I think red is not, yeah, let's try the green a bit. Yes, there's a tint of green, so we can just have a like that, and then change a bit of yellows. Okay, cool. So this is the before and this is the after. So the skin color is looking nice and shiny, right? So you can change all the colors from here, as well as you can always go, so you can individually change hue, saturation and luminance, or you can go in the last one where you can change for all at once, or there is another option is you change to HSL layer where you can change hue separately, saturation separately, luminance, and then again all layer. Okay, all you can see at once, or you can see the color layer. I generally do the color layer, but you can do the HSL layer as well. There's another trick to it, is if you go on an individual color, go on HSL, click on this point and you can choose a skin color, and it chooses, and you can move, click and move, so it moves that hue up or down. So I will suggest I'll move this, it moves the orange a bit up. I think here it's looking a bit dark, so I can move this a bit, right? Same thing what you can do for saturation. Give me a second. Okay, sorry. I'm getting a lot of calls today. Okay, but I'll call them back. Right. Okay, so this is looking okay. Right. And you can always, so it takes care, see, like in this skin color there is yellows as well as oranges. So when we move this up, it is adding orange, and when they're moving down, it's adding reds and everything, right? So this skin color is looking correct. I think this is looking nice. Luminance will go a bit, I think Saundarya is fair, so we'll not play with that. So let's not touch this a lot. I think in the saturation you can go a bit more color. Okay, and the hue one also you can add a bit of pink tone to it. Okay, right, cool. I think this is looking nice. So this is the before and this is after. The skin color is looking nice, but it is still looking a bit magenta. I will remove the magenta from this. I'll remove the redness from this. I'll remove a bit of orange hue from this. Right, so okay, this was looking yellow, and now a bit of tinge of that will look nice. Okay, cool. So the skin color is looking now correct, perfect. Okay, let's remove this layer. Basically you can click the Y to see the before and after, and click again Y to remove that. Okay, so that was all about the HSL. Color grading we'll cover in a bit, but what we'll do is, now the colors are looking very odd, which I really didn't want it to, because it messed up all the colors when I touched the magenta. So I'll fix that. Okay, so now it's looking correct because we don't want to mess up the outfit color. Okay. Color grading we'll cover in a while, but what we'll try to do is, I'll show you the new tips and tricks. How do you fix all of this with the healing as well as the new AI brushes what they have. So if you see on the left hand side, there are a lot of presets what I have created, or you can create as well. But then there is a adaptive section. You can see that they have adaptive portraits, adaptive sky, adaptive subject. So what I do is adaptive portrait. So you can always enhance the portrait. So if you can click on the enhance portrait, if you see, I'll show you the Y version. See, it has enhanced. Or you can always do a glamour portrait. You can do like a gritty portrait. So if you see, a lot of blemishes are being removed in when you do an enhanced portrait. Or you can do a gritty, you can do, so this has changed the game a lot. So you can always do your fasten your edits using this. So you can do a white teeth, but you don't see the teeth in this photo. You can do a texture hair. So if you see here, so this is adding texture to your hair. So this is a great technique. So you can always add textures, and you can control this, how much texture you want to add from the amount here. So you can go like a bit subtle rather than the one which does, or you can do a smooth hair, right? We will add a texture hair, but not this much. We'll go like halfway between, like 44, not 100%. Okay, then these are like adding layers. So it is not just like one filter you are choosing. You can always put enhance portrait plus texture hair and everything. Before doing that, what we'll do is we'll go to the healing brush, which has the content aware, which is a new tool which has come with as part of the latest update. But what we'll do is, with using the square buttons, you can increase or decrease the size. We'll quickly remove some blemishes which I feel using content aware. So I can see this. So I'll just quickly do this. So I try to keep the size of the blemish so it does not affect a lot of area. So try to keep as that size. So if it is big, so increase the brush. If it is small, then decrease the brush. So this is a good feature This was earlier only in Photoshop, but now it has come to Lightroom. This has made the life very easy, right? So you don't actually have to go to a Photoshop a lot. I generally try to avoid now. Okay, and you can always click a bigger area, right, and it just does it correctly, right? Now if I say enhance portrait, see, you can see the difference that it has created like a dodge and burr ekdam very smooth skin layer. So I will put this one which makes it very smooth. After removing, you can always enhance, but then enhance adds a bit of contrast as well. We'll go to glamour one. Okay, then going to the adaptive subject, you can always pop the image. Let me close this, let me zoom out, right? So you can always do a warm pop, or you can do like a soft which like kills the highlights, make it very soft, like a shiny filter you have. If you use shimmer filter, you get some kind of fancy filters where it like blurs out. You can use a plastic as well. Like a cold one, it makes more, adds more blues, more vibrant, so it's adding more temperature. You can add a glow, so glow is basically adding a lot of dehaze. I will keep it to pop. I think that will look nice. So the image has come from here to here, as you can see the difference, and this is looking more poppy and everything, where the skin is looking nice and very clean, and the lips and everything are looking very nice color, what it should have been, because this was a raw image. We still have to fix a bit more things with the eyes and everything. I think it's still a more highlights and exposed over here, which you can fix. Okay, so this was one thing. We can always do a style futuristic or choose something different, but what I'll do is I'll not do that. I'll do a Control Z, I think, but you can always choose that, or you can hover over that. So if we choose cinematic, so it chooses like a very Kodak style grain which kills the color, but I don't think those will work for this one. I think this is good, but you have a lot of options now, and that will be great. Okay, so let's come to back to the other important features. What we have is, as part of the new Lightroom, is, see, as I added those adaptive filters, it create everything as a mask for that, and it has everything. Okay, so the important feature what we have now is when you say create mask, you have option to select the subject. You can select the sky, if there is a sky in the photo, if there is a background, there is select people. You can select objects as well, so it treats objects as people. If there are multiple people, you can select multiple people as well. You can always use a brush to like highlight. You want to change some specific color or some specific exposure of some specific area, you can use a brush. You can use a linear gradient, so it's like a linear gradient from dark to shadows or shadows to dark, how you make the settings. Or you can use a radial gradient, where a particular circular area will be done. And then there is color range and luminance. I have not used this a lot, but we'll not come to those. Let's do a select people one, so it tries to identify people. Okay, so within that people, then when you click on her, you can choose specifically what we have to change. So we can always choose the entire person, or we can just choose face, skin, body, skin, then I think eyebrows, eye, lips, hair. Okay, let's do the complete body, skin, and just create a mask. So it's a good mask which is being created. I don't want to like change it, but let's go to the mask, right? Let's see how the exposure is looking. I think let's not touch with the exposure a bit less. Okay, contrast, I think the contrast is also looking good. I'll just do like very subtle -4. Highlights are looking more, so I'll remove a bit of highlights. Shadows, I can add shadows, but I don't want to add because I think the layering, because the light was on the left side, it is looking actually nice, but I can not touch the shadows. Whites, maybe it seem like highlights, but they are adding more shine to the white. I will not touch this one as well. I think the highlights were only had to be fixed. The blacks, the black areas are getting, but I think those are adding nice texture, so I'll not touch those as well. So maybe towards the hand it is helping a bit, so maybe shadows also a bit, right? Okay. Right. I think this is looking nice. We'll take away from the face. Let me zoom in 200%. We can take away, add a bit of clarity and take away a bit of texture, so that's more smoothens the skin. Sharpness is good enough. I think we can add a bit of sharpness, brings up the eyes. Okay, what we'll do is, another one is, we'll use the brush and we'll just paint some specific areas. I'll just increase the brush because this is actually nice, but it's not highlighting a bit. So I'm going to like brush this area, and then I'm going to reduce the exposure so the pink comes up, and I'm going to increase the saturation, and the tint as well a bit. So that brings up the eyes very nicely. So they were like overexposed a bit, but now they're looking matching with the lips as well. Okay, so this is the before and this is the after. The skin has come nice, the glass skin like, right? Another feature what you can do is, if you feel you have overdone something, you can always go and intersect with a different mask you can create, or you can always invert the mask and choose something else. So like now we are going to fix the background as well. So right, but you can always use this, but let's do let's zoom out completely, fit. So in the here, when you can see a navigator window, you can always fit it to 100%, 200%, or you can say fit. Okay, so let's do another mask and choose the background. So it has done a good selection. Let us check that. Okay, so the selection with the hair and everything is looking nice as well. Okay, the selection of background is good. Awesome. Okay. Okay, so let's fit because background is more fit. Okay, right. Let's add some tint because I think that will make it more white. Perfect. Right. And so I added a bit of magenta tint, so they are looking white. I can remove the exposure a bit so the subject pops up, just to create that separation with the shadows and everything. We can always go a bit less, but then it looks a bit odd. I think a subtle way. Highlights we can remove, or we can, I think adding highlights will look nice because then the whites and everything. I think shadows will remove a bit, but we'll only remove it from the blacks because then the leaves what I wanted to add as shadows will come up, and shadows will increase a bit, so that will correct the effect a lot, that the leaves are looking good. I think the this one I did not wanted to show where I'm keeping the leaves, so what we'll do is we'll fix the composition a bit. Right. Cool. Okay. So let me show you that weave. Okay. So background is looking nice. We can always change more settings in the background where you have tone, curve and everything as well. And you can change more settings for the background. So you can always go like, what you can do is, along with this you can always add some more things to it as well. I think the tint is happening a bit more. It's going towards a magenta, but what I'll do is I'll add some exposure. I'll not exposure, but I think I'll add whites. That will improve the whites of the color, right? So that is looking actually great. I don't see any questions coming up, but that's okay. Cool. So the photo is already looking very nice with the skin colors and everything correcting to what I was able to see with her face. I am not doing it a lot, right? So the other features of this is, as I said, you can always go and you can add or subtract something. So if you feel ki you don't want the hands to be added, or hands to be has something more, so you can always do a add. And I will do a brush, and I will do this on the hands. But then what I'll do is I'll reset everything for that, and then I will do the shadows on the hand, so they will look correct with the body color. So that will correct everything. Okay, cool. I think this is looking nice. This is looking very clean with from here to here and everything else as well. Let's come back to color grading. So color grading is my favorite part. I'll quickly explain you these circles. The circles are midtones, shadows and highlights. The outer circle is your hue, so what hue you change. The inner circle is basically how much of that color you want into your midtones in your highlights, and this is the brightness of that color, rather brightness of the midtones. And when you double click, it goes back to everything. I generally don't touch midtones. I touch them individually using only shadows and highlights. So I go to shadows. Generally my trick is doing 50% saturation, and then adjusting the hue to my liking. So in shadows I generally like to add some blues, because that gives a nice magenta feel. So my photo has a magenta feel to it, so I add a blue, so it gives a nice blue or a magenta feel to it. You can always go more magenta. In this case it will look nice because it goes with the outfit and everything. But then I reduce the saturation, and then I adjust it to my liking it, so it does not looks over it. Okay, so I do it like 50, depends on the photo as well, but here I think 27 or 28 will look nice. Correct. Coming to then I do the highlights. I do the same. I do it 50%, but then I try to do this highlights mostly on the face and everything in this photo, right? I tend to add some greens, or I try to add some cyans, so that brings out the real color of the skin, or a subtle green as well, right? But then I remove this and I add a very subtle saturation, so it catches up everything and does not add a lot of those colors to it, right? So this is very subtle now. I think from here to here the photo is looking nice, but I think overall the brightness has gone down. So what I can do is in the highlights or go to the basic panel and increase the exposure a bit. I think now that matches up with the photo. If you do white, or I think you can go a bit more exposure as well, right? Perfect. So that is the photo. What's okay, I can go a bit less on highlights. Okay, cool. So that's all about color grading, how I use it. There is always a blending and balance option, so you can always blend and balance how much you want of that, or you can balance it as well. So you can balance like having more of pink layer, or rather not as well completely. I generally touch when in special scenarios or something where I'm doing some creative edits, but generally I don't. Okay, so this is my best trick. Don't touch the midtones unless you're very confident with it. I don't touch the midtones. Coming to detail, so I'll not touch the detail like this. Details, you can add sharpening. So this is the by default sharpening of 40, 1.0, 25 what is been added, but you can always add sharpness. But I feel we added when we created the mask for the face, so the sharpness is looking good, so I won't touch the sharpness. If you have done on a high ISO, so this was taken at ISO 320, so there can be a lot of noise in the photo. In this it is not, but what I can do is I can always remove a noise a bit, so it removes a bit of noise. I don't see a lot of noise, but then too again you can see it in the darker areas. So here there is a bit, so if I go like very smooth, you can, but it affects a lot of the complete skin as well, so I won't touch it a lot unless you have a very nice grainy picture, then I will. Okay, so how much noise you want reduction in the color, detail, smoothness, you can control by that. So generally I do in the color, I try to add a bit of noise reduction, so we don't see in the color, but in this case it is not required. It's generally it's a very heavy grainy image, or like 1000, 12,000, what am I saying 1600 and above, or something where you see a lot of grain and a lot of details, colors in the grain, you can always do that. Lens correction is basically I use this sometimes because it adapts to a camera, what your camera sees, and the Lightroom tries to make a better guess out of it. So you can always do lens correction. I don't do it, so it tries to do it, but sometimes I do it. I used to do it a lot when I used to use a APS-C camera, but presently since I'm using the full frame Nikon Z6, I don't do this a lot because it's not affecting it a lot. So I can always go, let me show you. Nikon, see, it took everything, but it's not adding a lot of things. So if I do without, so yes, it's a bit of change, but not in the color, not in the composition. It looks, let me show you like this. It just corrects the overall composition with the angle, I think, with the lens correction, so that's okay. So distortion can be like, you can distort, or you can do like this, just amount of blur and everything, or you can add vignetting to the complete photo with respect to the lens, what the Lightroom understands. Give me a second, guys. कॉल केला भावनाने कॉल केला हा आई सुरू आहे अजून 10 पर्यंत आहे. Okay, sorry guys. Yes, I still don't see any question, but that's okay. You can always see the photo video later as well, right? So transform layer is basically if you have messed up with the angle of it, the photo angle of it, you can always do a vertical, you can do something, but I generally don't touch this because I try to take the photo correctly, but you can. So if you feel something is odd, you have taken something wrong, but I don't touch this unless I have made a lot of mess out of it. Okay. You can always use auto, which tries to correct, or guided. I generally take it off. I think the exposure has gone a bit up. Okay. Overall exposure is looking nice. Okay. Effects is basically post crop vignetting. If you want to add vignettes to your images, I used to add a lot, but now I don't add. So you can always add a vignette to some of the creative images. So what you can do, what is my trick to add vignetting, but this is like a commercial image, I don't do, but you can do a complete vignetting. Then you choose the midpoint and decide how the vignetting you want towards the edge, towards the circle, and then you select the roundness. Roundness will be square, roundness will be towards like a circle. Okay, so I choose like a square. I choose the midpoint to be like this. I feather it out how much I want, and then I adjust the amount. So amount I can do a very subtle one, right? And you can always, so like for magazine images or something where I want to submit a magazine, and some of the images where it looks more contrasty or the theme matches, I do add a bit of grain as well. Generally people like to remove grain when there is a high ISO you're shooting, but sometimes I do add grain. So if it is a textured image which matches the theme out of it, then only. In this, grain is not required, but you can add a grain just for demo purpose. You can choose the size of it, like very small, like that, or you can choose the roughness of it as well. So very hard or very hard. Okay, let's remove the grain completely. Cool. The last one is the calibration. So calibration is basically calibration of your color. You can choose the blue primary and try to adjust the red primary and try to adjust the color of the reds in there. So here if I reduce the reds, it's looking nice. Right. And if I do the greens as well, so this is like a hue layer, but you are calibrating your colors to the match. So you are telling the red should look like something of this hue and all of those things, or green or blue, right? I generally don't touch reds or greens. I only touch blue because blue affects and makes the way I edit make it me better. So I like to add a bit of magenta to my skin and then do like that a bit. So increase it, so very subtle, right? So see, the photo has come a long way. I don't like the vignetting, so I'll be just not doing the vignetting, right? So the photo looks like this. Now the best trick about this is key, as I said earlier, you can always do a shift alt C. I can choose only the mask 3, mask 2, because that was the background and some of the mask. I won't choose the skin and everything, and I will choose copy. And then what we can do is, let's go to our favorite image which we want to edit next. Like, choose this one, not choose this one. I think this is already edited. This is edited, right? So this is not edited. Okay. And just correct the ratio to 8.5 by 11. Just do auto. The auto is not helping, so you can do a manual crop like this and do a Control Alt V. It takes a bit of time, but it has done the magic. But it had messed up few things which we'll correct quickly. So we'll quickly go to adapt to portrait, enhance portrait. Rather, it has messed up the mask because we chose that mask, right? So what we'll do is we will delete the mask 3. We'll also delete the mask 2. We'll choose the subject. We will enhance her, because every photo is different, so it's not like leaking a color a lot. Let's go a bit less on highlights. Let's some contrast, blacks a bit less. I think that's good. Select the background. The exposure is looking good. It can go with white with more exposure. Let's quickly go to color grading, because I think the color grading what we applied on that photo, because she was sitting, I must have changed the light, so it's looking a bit different. Let me add a glamour portrait to this, so it corrects the skin, but it's not up to that mark, but we can always remove the blemishes. Let me make the brush bigger. Right, so here you can see something. Right, okay, so this is looking nice. Let me quickly go to color grading. I think magenta is added too much. I'll remove the saturation a bit, because that is a good control. And overall the skin can go a bit less. The saturation can go a bit less. Whites can go a bit more. Right. Okay. And the tone curve, I just redo the color. I don't want to touch the magentas a bit, but the orange. Nice. Okay, so this is the before and this is the after. So that's how you make all of these changes. I have not touched Photoshop, but you are still able to make the same level of changes what you can do in Photoshop. See, I have removed the blemishes. The skin is nicely smoothened. This is way good for Amazon or for catalog shoot, even a fashion shoot as well, where you can posting or something. Definitely not for a print, but for print I will have to use a higher camera as well, like 45 megapixel. It should be more sharp. This is not that sharp, but good for social media, good for Amazon and some all of those brands as well. So if you have any questions, guys, I'll be there for another 1 or 2 minutes, but you can ask the question later as well. But these are all the new tricks which I use a lot, which has fastened my work a lot, where I use glamour portrait, enhanced portrait, and then doing adaptive pop or warm subject. That has given my work like way faster, and I hardly touch Photoshop if I have to do like very detailed beauty shoots. So if you don't have any questions, guys, thanks for joining and see you the next time.